I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Welcome to the Q&A, everyone. Tom, let's go ahead and jump right in here.
Absolutely. And before we get started, I want to thank everybody for your great questions. And if you like the show, let us know. Just click the like and subscribe. Excuse me. And if you want to share it with somebody with the share button. And if you want to support the show, you can do that. We got a link in Patreon. And for all of our Patreons, we give you a shout out in the description. Okay. First question. This is from Leah. Leah wants to know, she says, my question is there any evidence the Sasquatch know how to create fire and for warmth or cooking? Oh boy.
Well, I'll defer to what Mr. Black told us. We recorded him recently, and we're going to be recording some more with him. I guess I should mention, first of all, folks, that's we've got a bunch of different projects going on right now, and a couple of them have real priorities for us. So when we're able to get his voice, I'm trying to think of the word. he wants his voice disguised. So once we get that done, then we'll start posting those recordings. But what he said, and I can't remember, Tom, if he said it actually in the recording or if he talked to us privately about this, but and we do have another person who worked for the government who actually saw documentation to this as well. It supported what Mr. Black said, independent of each other, that they do know how to make fire, but typically they don't use it.
Do we want to talk about the one incident, Will?
No, we're gonna leave that alone for now. That's gonna be part of another.
We're not gonna say a word.
Yeah, that's gonna be part of another project. All right. So
that never happened. Okay. So the short answer is they do know how to create fire, though, right?
That's what he said, but typically they don't.
Okay.
Well, can I ask a question? Is he referring to that particular group? Because I know the incident what you're talking about. Is he referring to that particular group in the Northwest, or is he referring to all of them?
That's something we have to ask him. And folks, again, we mentioned this last week, but for the next recording piece we're going to do with him, he asked for listener questions. So if you have a question for Mr. Black, send it to us, and I'll get that to him when we record him next time. Tom, if you want to give out the place to send that to.
Yeah, send it to questions@creekdevil.com and be specific. Say, this is a question I want to ask Mr. Black. And then ask your question.
Yeah, he asked us specifically after we finished recording the first 2 hour piece with him, for listeners to send him questions, and that's how how he will address the next recording session we do with him. So, but yeah, that's the bottom line. Now we don't know, the 22 variants, on this continent alone. Which ones, because there's some very big differences between all the different variations. So I'm sure it's not all of them that have that ability, but some apparently do.
I think they're the ones starting the forest fires.
But that's my guess at this moment, because I haven't really discussed that with him about the specifics.
Next question is, Will, does the collection of Bigfoot stories that were gathered by Betty from Willow Creek still exist? Can it be published or possibly a limited distribution? I think this person wants to know, hey, can I read them?
Oh, the items that Betty Allen, who was the reporter for the Eureka Times, and I think, I don't know what all's available. You could probably contact the Eureka Times. I think all they have are the articles. I know when I was writing notes from the field, I actually wrote to the newspaper in Eureka, California, and requested copies of articles, and they were really nice. They sent me copies of everything they had, so for anyone interested in that, you might be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
And they probably charge a small fee. I think I paid, I mean, can't remember how much it was, at that time. That was 2003, so, but that would be my suggestion, would be to contact them and to ask them and see what they say, and if there's a cost, they'll tell you all that. They're pretty nice people there.
Well, and I got to say, it's kind of a fun thing. I've done that with museums getting Bigfoot stories. It's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting to do original research like that, because you find real interesting nuggets that aren't floating around in the internet.
And you do, and it's one of the things that I enjoy is you get a chance to connect with some really, really nice people in those facilities. So
exactly. Okay, next one is Alex has a question on the pronunciation of macaques, and he says, well, it's actually pronounced macaque instead of macaque. Boris, what do you think? I think he doesn't understand that some people in different regions of the country have different accents, and that's an entitlement.
Like
each sheet. Right.
Macaque, either one is correct. I've heard it pronounced by academics both ways, and I think it's. I think I'm not sure where the I'd have to look it up to find out exactly where the name actually came from. It almost sounds like it might have been a French or a Spanish name applied to them at some point in time. But I even catch myself saying macaque, and it just, I think you can pronounce it either way. Nobody's going to fault you for it.
Well, and when you watch different shows, on TV, you hear different pronunciations. So,
exactly.
And I think that's where we pick that up.
That's why I say I even had professors that pronounced it differently. So I mean, and of course I'm a Texan, so we talk differently, and some of our pronunciations may not be up to the level of other people's pronunciations of things. So, there's a street over in Austin. I'll give you a prime example. It's spelled Manchaca, which the correct Spanish pronunciation would be Manchaca. Well, you know how Texans pronounce it? Manchac. It's been Manchac. It's been Manchac as long as I've been known. So, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. But it's like you say that in front of Hispanic people, and they just kind of look at you like, okay.
It's potatoes, tomatoes,
exactly.
tomatoes.
Tomatoes.
All right, so we're not going to get bent out of shape over that. All right, so here's another one. Hello, Creek Devils. So I guess we're a bunch of devils now. Well, we already knew that, right?
We've probably been called worse.
Right, I've been called worse. Okay, so there's a lot of Bigfoot videos out there showing the creature walking. This is actually an excellent question. Do you think it's possible to tell, this is a rhetorical question, do you think it's possible to tell if the creature shown is actually human or Bigfoot by close analysis of its walk and movement? That's a question I'm going to throw to both of you guys.
Well, I would say if it's if you've got enough information in the video to be able to make that determination, you probably could. What do you think, Forrest?
I think you're exactly correct. I always hate to do this, but there is a very good show out there that actually people should go look up if you're really seriously interested in this, because I can tell you all day long, and so can Will. Bigfoot does have a very distinctive way of walking, and it's called a compliant gait, and in some ways it is much more an efficient mode of motion than our own walking. Now, saying that, they have almost pretty much proven that, first off, they can't find anybody. We go back to the Patterson-Gimlin film, they've never been able to find a human big enough to put into a suit that would even be able to, be able to walk the same. First off, the proportions of a human don't fit into a suit like that. The walking, they can't find a human that can really copy that motion. And there is a Monster Quest show out there that an anthropologist and from Idaho State, that he is on there, and they actually found the biggest guy they could find, and he tries to copy this motion. He's an athlete, and humans can't do it. And they have a very peculiar way of walking. They don't lock their knees like we do, and they rotate that leg out and about when they walk, and not being able to study the patella, not having any bones to look at. The patella is our kneecap, and not to be able to look and see what kind of knee structure a Bigfoot has. There's just no way of copying it. Plus, the people have to realize that the ankle structure of a Bigfoot, those tarsals are set forward on the foot. You can actually see that in the Gimlin film very clearly, that the ankle is set forward on the foot. It's not like ours, it's set at the back. So that plus the mid-tarsal break provides with a very different type of method of walking, and the way they push off is so different from ours. And it's called a compliant gait.
And one thing I want to add to that, and Will, you would agree. Well, Will, you're the one who mentioned it, who brought it to my attention, and that is, if the head bobs up and down, it ain't Bigfoot.
Yeah, because their walk is different.
Yes. Yeah, they have that's why you hear people say, oh, they were gliding. It was like they were walking on air. They were gliding. And well, they're not walking on air, but they do have a very distinct mode of motion, and it does give that appearance of gliding. And I think that is a very, very good point, and I'm sorry, I should have thought of that too. There's no bump up and down motion that you see in humans when they walk or run or anything like that. So they don't do that.
Yeah,
they just don't do that.
If you see a film where its head is bobbing up and down, you know instantly that's a fraud.
So if there was a man out there who filmed one of these things in Walla Walla, he's a free man, you would say maybe that isn't real?
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Well,
Okay.
and one of the things, with that gait, too, when they make that description, it looked like it glided, is because it's almost like a cross-country, I'm using the right term, the cross-country skier. They're the ones that aren't going downhill so much. They're doing the kind of walk the way they do with the skis, where they're picking one foot up. It's not really, and then they're setting it down. So they're not really doing a toe off like we are. They're picking the foot directly up, and you can see that in the cast and the footprints, where the weight is put down on the foot.
Wait,
yeah,
go over that
and I
one
think
more
you and I
time.
discussed the outside of the foot seems to be bearing more of the weight.
It is.
As well.
Just about all the casts that I have show that, where the weight is on the outside of the foot rather than the inside. Well, like with our foot, the weight is on the ball of the foot, not with the Sasquatch. It's on the opposite side of the foot.
Well, here's something to think about with that. That would explain why the two times that you and I and the team have been out in the areas that you know what I'm talking about, and we've been around, the creatures have kind of surrounded us. But when they walk, it's very subtle. You got to know what you're listening for, but you can't hear them walking around you. But it's not like an elephant walking through the brush.
Well, here's a couple examples. Something I learned hunting growing up when you're trying to move stealthy, and then again later in the Army, and my job as a reconnaissance specialist was particularly important to move stealthily, moving into an enemy position to gather intelligence. You don't walk like you normally would walking down the sidewalk. The toe heel or heel toe, that kind of walk where that's how your foot's rolling from. You put your heel down and your foot rolls and you toe off to the next step. When you're trying to move stealthy, you pick your whole foot up, you move it over to the next position, and you put it down quietly. And that lessens a lot of the noise you're going to make as if you, instead of normal walking.
Right. And I just want to say also, as a general rule, if the creature is being stealthy, they are very stealthy. You just hear a slight twig crack here and there. However, there are a lot of, including Veronica, there's very legitimate accounts where the things do sound like a D9 caterpillar going through the woods, and that's where they're not trying to be stealthy.
They're doing that on
running.
purpose.
Yes, exactly. All right. Okay, so we have kind of tackled that one. All right. Same person wants to know, I've seen a few videos where the purported Bigfoot is quite thin, and frankly usually looks like a guy in an ill-fitting costume. Do you think that happens, Will?
Oh yeah, and there's some different variants among these creatures. So when they're really thin, that's most likely one of the different variations.
Yeah, we talked. Mr. Black mentioned that. There's some really creepy ones.
Yes.
Like they're all creepy, but these are like super.
You have to
creepy.
take into account too that I don't think every Bigfoot out there is going to be an extraordinarily healthy individual. I mean, I'm sure that they are probably fall prey to a lot of the same problems that we have, whether it be parasites, internal parasites, maybe disease, maybe cancer, that's going to make an individual become thin, emaciated looking, because we have heard of people saying these things, that it was very thin, that it was emaciated looking, it didn't really look healthy. Well, there are going to be unhealthy individuals out there. And the older they get, you see this in primates and gorillas and apes and even in people. The older you get, the less active you are and less ability in a situation that a Bigfoot would be in to be able to hunt and find food as well. Plus, you're going to have teeth problems. So all of these type of things are going to affect their appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. And even right down to how well they're eating and the time of year it is.
Right. Correct.
There's a classic example of that in, I think it's Volume 1 of Witness of the Unknown. It's either Volume 1 or Volume 2. I can't top of my head. Talking about the Union Creek incident where the father and the son get out to relieve themselves about 2 o'clock in the morning, and a whole group of these things start coming towards them, and they describe them as being very thin, kind of emaciated. So it's like, I don't know, middle of winter and they haven't eaten. I found that interesting.
Wonder what they had on their mind.
Well, yeah, they were coming after the two guys and almost got them.
Oh, I know.
But, I've interviewed people also years ago in Skamania County. A good friend of mine there a long time ago said that I believe he was out hunting and he saw one of these things. And that's what he said. He said it looked very emaciated looking. But it was, we're talking the time of year, or he wasn't hunting. He was part of a search and rescue team. So this would have been probably April or so, towards the end of winter. So this creature was very thin and very emaciated looking. Could have either been sick or not very well fed. All right, Tom, what do we have next?
Okay, so now we're going to get into Bigfoot and arithmetic. I don't know about this, but it is, yeah.
Okay.
Math. It's been suggested that Bigfoot can count, but only up to small numbers around 6. The question I have is, and again, that's a good question. There's no bad question. So, but the counter question I would have is, where did you get this information? And whoever has this information, can you back it up?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they count, but they can recognize individuals. If there's a group of people out, they'll know how many people there are just by the individual characteristics of dress.
And I think you've mentioned in the past that they're very interested in who has the numerical superiority.
Yes, they'll want to know how large a group is, but it doesn't mean they're processing in their head 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. They're making note of how large the group is, and by individuals. And I'm sure they, like other apes, they do that with themselves also.
So you don't think they're taking the square of pi?
I kind of doubt
times, that. Okay, all right. I'm just checking. I don't do that very often either. Okay. Next question here, same person, is I've heard some claims that Bigfoot will attempt to count coup, an Indian term for sneaking up on an enemy camp and touching another human without them knowing.
It could be possible,
Indian
sure.
War situation. I'm sorry. Say again?
I would say it could be possible. I think Tom Sue had actually mentioned that when we had him on.
Well, that would be interesting. And we think that some people have been seriously touched by these things. They didn't know it because they didn't survive it.
Right. We'll have to ask Tom again next time we have him on, and we're planning to have him on in the near future. So he's busy at the moment, but when he comes home, we'll get him on the show again.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to consider sometimes. I have seen gorillas and chimpanzees and macaques that will, especially juveniles, that'll walk up. You'll have a male. The males in these groups have a tendency to sit around like in the Buddha position that I always call, just sitting there, aimlessly staring off into space like they're pondering some great thought. And you'll see some juvenile walk up and touch them or pull their hair and then run. And I wonder if, in fact, maybe that's something that Bigfoot is doing as a source of entertainment, because it's like the little, you'll see the juvenile apes and monkeys run off, and then they'll sit at a distance, and the big guy sitting here looking around and gives them that look like, don't do that again, and then they'll do it again. And it seems to be more of a playful type of situation until Big Daddy makes a move towards them and gives them that open yawn with those 4-inch canines showing. Then they think, oh, the fun's has completely gone out of this game.
That's the signal to knock
and
it
I
off.
just wonder if maybe, we have done pissed him off. So, I mean, I just wonder if maybe that might be more of the situation with Bigfoot. I'm not discounting the fact that maybe they are taking coup. I don't know. But, taking coup was a little bit the same process with the Indians, too. So it's like, I can touch you. And, I could have took your head off, but I just chose to touch you. So,
It's something we'll ask a couple of our Native American friends, see what their thoughts are on that.
Well, Will, you came close to that. When you and Milo and the couple other guys were out camping, you turned around and realized the thing had been right next to you. For all you know, he may have touched you and you didn't know it.
No, I don't think so. I would have known. I mean, we weren't dressed real heavily. That was a different situation. I mean, if it had wanted to do something like that, it could have done that and disappeared very quickly, but it didn't. It was actually going under the tent through our gear. So I think his intentions were entirely different.
Pretty interesting, though. He's rummaging through ransacking your gear.
Yeah, they could have asked.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
Rude buggers.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so here's a few questions for the show. Does Sasquatch lay any type of trap to catch animals, or or show foresight when hunting, and we have heard that they do manipulate their environment to create like a
They ambush.
kill zone and that sort of.
Yeah, they're an ambush
All right,
predator.
Yes. I've heard it suggested that Sasquatch will create areas of all that we just talked about. The areas of fallen trees and brush become almost impossible to move through. Yes, I've seen one of those. So yeah, they do what they can. They're smart.
You know,
critters.
they would have to manipulate a lot of brush because deer are pretty cagey. In fact, we were at one of the timeshares this past week, and there's a hiking trail along the Napa River, and we saw quite a few deer and other animals out there, and they're actually quite close. And where there was any kind of thickets, they would simply just walk around any obstacles.
Yeah. Okay. Is it possible Sasquatch might have a much lower metabolic rate that is what's suspected, which allows it to survive longer periods with little food? Oh, good, interesting question. Such as winter or when the game areas are overhunted.
Well, when the game areas are overhunted, they just move on to an area. They don't stick in one area very long. About 14 days is average, so they keep moving. As far as the lower metabolism, we have no idea. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Forrest?
Yeah, I was just about to ask Forrest, how would that play into a lower metabolism and a higher muscle bone density?
Well, you've got gorillas as a prime example. A lot of times, if you look at gorillas, they have very distinctive big bellies. You know, you don't see that necessarily on the chimpanzees, but you do. You look at a gorilla, they're pot-bellied, and there's a reason for that. They are browsers. They spend almost, they're waking out almost all their waking hours browsing on leaves and, even fibers, tree fibers and bark and such as that. Their gut is designed, they actually have enlarged intestines that are actually designed to process that cellulose material off tree bark and limbs, and their digestive system is actually designed for that. So you don't see this in other primates, and it's just pretty specific to them. The gut bacteria is different than say ours or necessarily chimpanzees. So it's all designed to process that high fiber diet and the cellulose, and it because of that they're able to synthesize, and they have special amino acids in their systems that help process that, and it kind of supercharges that heavy muscle mass. And I don't think they have particularly high metabolisms, because you don't ever see gorillas running around acting like chimpanzees. Very, very rarely do you ever see them get real excited, and there's got to be something major going on to produce them to act that way. Chimpanzees, it doesn't take a whole lot to get them excited.
Yeah, we don't get many reports of Sasquatches with potbellies, so that's probably a good indicator they have a higher metabolism.
Well, I would say they probably have a higher metabolism than gorillas. I mean, obviously they're up walking bipedally, but I think that it could very well possibly be that they have, if they have these amino acids and type of gut bacteria that might allow for them to be able to metabolize things even in the dead of winter, eating bark. And now you have heard about them shredding trees and opening them up and eating the interior of trees and such.
Found lots of it.
They may have they may have this type of gut bacteria and amino acids that that's similar. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing as gorillas, but and even the larger intestines that would allow them to process this stuff. And even if they did have a higher metabolism, which I think they probably do than a gorilla, they could metabolize that, and it would be a benefit to them. And that would protect that and actually produce that heavy muscle mass.
Right.
On them.
Listen, we're just about out of time for this session. Folks, what we're going to do is we're going to be doing the Q&A twice a week. So the show will be posted again on Thursday, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we'll wrap this piece for now and come back to us on Thursday, and we'll pick it up from here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out there.